The night was loud inside the intergalactic bar. Aliens of every color and shape filled the room. Some had green skin, others had long tails, and a few had glowing eyes. The air was heavy with music, smoke, and strange smells from alien drinks. Behind the counter, bottles shimmered under neon lights. In the middle of this chaos worked a young human waiter. He moved quickly from one table to another, carrying trays of glowing glasses. He kept his head low and his steps careful. Most aliens barely noticed him. Humans were rare here, but he was treated like nothing more than a servant. He did his job silently, trying not to draw attention. At one corner table sat a blue-skinned alien girl with silver-white hair. She had already drunk too much. Her laughter echoed loudly, and her friends cheered with her. Her eyes, bright and mischievous, followed the human waiter every time he passed by. She leaned toward her friends and whispered something, and they all laughed. It was clear she enjoyed teasing him. The human placed drinks on their table with a polite nod, but before he could turn away, the girl grabbed his arm. Her grip was strong, stronger than he expected. She laughed again and called him boring. Her friends clapped and shouted, urging her to do something wild. The human tried to pull his arm free. His face stayed calm, but his eyes showed discomfort. He was used to being mocked. He knew better than to fight back in a room filled with aliens who could crush him easily. He whispered politely, asking her to let go, but she only smirked. The alcohol had made her bold. With a sudden tug, she pulled him closer. Her hand reached for his shirt. The fabric stretched, buttons strained, and before anyone could stop her, she ripped it open. The sound of tearing cloth cut through the music. The room fell silent. The human froze. His chest was now bare for everyone to see. And there, glowing faintly under the dim light, was a strange symbol burned into his skin. It was not a tattoo, not ink, but something alive. The lines pulsed softly with energy, forming a shape that looked ancient and powerful. Gasps echoed through the bar. The blue-skinned girl's smile vanished instantly. Her eyes widened in shock. Her friends fell silent, their laughter dying in their throats. Other aliens stood, craning their necks to see. Even the music seemed to fade as all eyes focused on the human's chest. The symbol was not just decoration. Every alien in the room seemed to recognize it. Whispered voices filled the silence. Words passed quickly, words of fear and disbelief. Some spoke of legends, others of wars long ago. The human looked confused. He did not understand why everyone was staring. For him, the mark had always been there. He had never known what it meant. He had hidden it for years, thinking it was only a strange birthmark. But now, under the eyes of dozens of aliens, he realized it was something far greater. The blue-skinned girl stepped back. Her face pale despite her blue skin. Her hands trembled. She whispered something under her breath, a word the human could not understand. Then louder, she shouted to the crowd that this mark belonged to an ancient clan, a clan that should not exist anymore. A wave of fear spread across the bar. Some aliens backed away, knocking over drinks. Others whispered about calling guards. Some even reached for their weapons. The human raised his hand slowly, his voice calm but confused. He swore he did not know what the mark meant. He begged them to listen, but no one was calm anymore. The mark had turned him from a simple waiter into a dangerous mystery. The blue-skinned girl's drunken courage had vanished. Now she looked at him not with laughter but with fear, and something else. Guilt. The silence stretched, broken only by the sound of a glass falling and shattering on the floor. Everyone waited for someone else to move. The human stood, chest glowing faintly, trapped under 100 alien eyes. In that single moment, the bar had changed forever. A drunken prank had revealed a secret that could not be hidden again. And the human, once invisible, now stood at the center of something far larger than himself. The bar stayed frozen in silence. All eyes remained locked on the glowing mark on the human's chest. The faint light pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. It was not natural. It was alive. The alien girl who had ripped his shirt stumbled backward, her breath shaky. Her drunken laughter was gone, replaced by pure shock. An old alien with green scales pushed through the crowd. His long robe brushed the floor as he moved. His eyes, sharp and knowing, locked on the mark. He whispered words in a language most did not understand. But those who did gasped louder, for they had all heard of this symbol but never thought they would see it. The human looked around. Still confused, he placed his hand over his chest as if trying to cover the mark. His voice trembled. He asked what was wrong, what this symbol meant, but no one gave him a straight answer. Instead, whispers spread, whispers filled with fear. "It cannot be real," one alien muttered. "That clan was destroyed centuries ago." Another hissed. "Yet the mark is here on a human," said the elder, his voice low but heavy. The alien girl stepped forward again. Her silver hair shook as she pointed at the human. Her eyes were wide, almost glowing. She said she had seen this mark in old war records, hidden deep in her family's archives. It belonged to the Guardians of the Abyss, an ancient clan said to control powers that could destroy worlds. The crowd stirred at her words. Some aliens shouted that it was impossible. Some argued that humans could not carry such power. Others said the human must be lying, pretending to be innocent. The human raised his voice above the chaos. He swore he knew nothing. He told them he had always had this mark since he was a child. He never understood it. He thought it was only a scar or strange birthmark. His words sounded honest, but honesty did not calm the fear spreading across the bar. The elder alien leaned closer. His long fingers hovered just above the glowing symbol. Without touching, he could feel the energy. His eyes widened, and for the first time, even he looked afraid. He said the mark was not only real, but also active. Alive again after centuries of silence. Gasps echoed once more. The alien girl's knees weakened. She fell into a chair, her drunken haze gone. Her heart pounded. She had only wanted to tease the human, but now she had revealed something far greater, something dangerous. In the far corner of the bar, a group of armored aliens exchanged looks. Their eyes gleamed with recognition. One of them tapped his wristcom, sending a silent message. They knew what this meant, and they would not let the opportunity slip away. Meanwhile, the human pressed the torn edges of his shirt together. His chest still glowed faintly under the fabric. He could feel every eye staring at him. He wanted to vanish, to hide. But deep inside, something strange stirred. A warmth spread from the mark, a power he could not explain. The elder turned to the crowd. His voice was grim. He said the boy was dangerous, not by choice but by destiny. He warned that if the wrong people learned of this, they would hunt him down. He urged the human to leave before it was too late. The human shook his head. He did not want to run. He demanded answers. But the elder only said that answers would come with time. Right now, survival mattered most. The alien girl stood again, guilt heavy on her face. She told the human it was her fault. She had revealed the mark to the world. Now he was in danger because of her. Her words carried real fear, not only for him but for herself, because once the mark was known, enemies would come. The tension grew thicker. The music had long stopped. The bar was no longer a place of laughter but a cage of fear. Some aliens began to leave quietly, not wanting to be near him. Others stayed, too curious or too greedy to walk away. Suddenly the doors to the bar slid open with a hiss. A group of armored warriors stepped inside. Their helmets reflected the neon lights. Their weapons glowed faintly. The whispers stopped. Everyone knew trouble had arrived. The leader of the warriors pointed directly at the human. His voice thundered through the room. He demanded the boy be handed over at once. The mark had drawn predators, and they would not leave without him. The human's heart raced. He looked at the alien girl who now stood at his side. Her eyes were still full of fear, but also something new. Determination. She whispered that she would not abandon him. Not now. The crowd watched as the fate of the human changed forever. The mark that should not exist had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. The air inside the bar grew heavier with every passing second. The glowing mark on the human's chest still pulsed faintly beneath his torn shirt, casting a soft light that refused to fade. The armored warriors at the door stood like shadows of death, their weapons raised and ready. No one dared to move, not even to breathe too loudly. The human's voice cracked as he spoke. He insisted again that he was only a waiter, only a man trying to earn his pay. But the crowd no longer saw him as ordinary. The whispers started again, louder this time. They spoke of legends told to children of ancient warriors who carried the same mark. They spoke of weapons hidden in the mark itself, weapons that could bend stars and burn planets. The elder alien with green scales raised his hand, begging the warriors to wait. His voice trembled as he said the human might not even know his own power. He told them to be careful, because disturbing such energy without understanding it could destroy them all. The warriors only laughed. Their leader declared that humans were weak, fragile, and nothing but tools. If the boy carried power, then that power belonged to them. The alien girl with silver hair stepped in front of the human without thinking. Her body trembled, but her voice was firm. She shouted that he was under her protection. Her friends gasped, unable to believe what she had just said. Only moments ago she had mocked him. Now she stood between him and death. Her words carried no weapon, but they shook the room. The human stared at her, shocked by her sudden change. He whispered to her that she did not have to do this. She looked back, guilt flashing in her eyes. She said it was her mistake that revealed his secret, and she would not let him face it alone. Her words lit a small spark in his chest, even brighter than the mark. The leader of the warriors gave a signal, and 2 soldiers marched forward. The crowd held their breath, but before they could touch him, the human's body moved on its own. His arm shot out with speed no human should have. His hand caught the soldier's wrist mid-air, stopping the glowing blade meant for his throat. Gasps erupted across the room. The human himself looked at his hand in disbelief. He had never trained for this, he had never fought like this. Yet his body moved as if some ancient memory guided it. The mark on his chest pulsed brighter with every heartbeat. And the soldier staggered back in fear. Whispers turned into shouts. Some aliens screamed that he was the chosen one. Others called him a curse. The elder shouted for calm, but no one listened. The energy in the bar was like a storm ready to explode. The armored warriors grew angrier. Their leader ordered them to capture the human at once. Chairs overturned as they rushed forward. The crowd scattered, some hiding behind tables, others running for the exit. The neon lights flickered as the chaos erupted. The human's heart pounded. He did not want to fight, but every time a soldier came close, his body reacted. He dodged, blocked, and struck with speed and strength he could not understand. His movements were clumsy, yet unstoppable, as though something deep inside him had been awakened. The alien girl stayed close to him. Her hands shook, but she grabbed a fallen weapon from the floor. She swung wildly, surprising even herself. She was no warrior, but standing beside him gave her courage. Every time he stumbled, she covered him. Every time she faltered, he pulled her back. Together they survived the first wave. When the last soldier hit the floor groaning, the room fell into silence again. The human stood breathing hard, sweat running down his face. The glowing mark dimmed slightly, but its light did not vanish. His hands trembled as he whispered that he had never done anything like this before. The elder alien's eyes filled with fear and awe. He said the boy was more dangerous than he thought. He explained that the mark did not only show who he was, but also unlocked powers buried in his blood. If left unchecked, that power could consume him, or worse, consume entire worlds. The alien girl bit her lip. Her voice broke as she asked the question no one wanted to ask. Was he human at all, or something else wearing human skin? The bar grew quiet again, every ear straining for the elder's answer. The elder did not answer at once. His silence was heavier than words. Finally, he said the truth was lost in time. Maybe the boy was human, maybe not, but one thing was clear. The universe would not ignore him now. Too many eyes had seen. Too many whispers had spread. At that moment, alarms blared in the distance. The warriors had sent a signal before they fell. More would come, stronger and more ruthless. The human clenched his fists, his mind torn between fear and anger. The alien girl stepped closer, her voice steady now. She told him he could not run anymore. The mark had chosen him, and so had she. The crowd looked on in silence, some with fear, some with hope. The boy who was once invisible was now the center of every story whispered across the galaxy. The human felt the weight of those whispers pressing on his chest, heavier than the mark itself. He did not know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing. His life as a simple waiter was over, forever. The roll. Silence after the fight was heavy. The fallen warriors groaned on the floor, their armor cracked, the glowing edges of their weapons dimming slowly. The human stood in the middle of the wreckage, his chest rising and falling, sweat running down his face. The glowing mark pulsed faintly under his torn shirt, like it was alive. The alien girl stayed close, her silver hair messy, her eyes wide with fear and awe. She still gripped the weapon she had stolen, her hands shaking. She whispered that more would come, and she was right. The alarms outside the bar screamed louder, echoing through the neon streets. The elder alien with green scales raised his hands to calm the crowd. His voice trembled as he spoke. He said the signal had already been sent and the rival clans would not waste time. They would arrive soon with reinforcements stronger and deadlier than the first wave. The bar owner hurried to seal the doors, but everyone knew it would not hold for long. Aliens inside argued. Some shouted that the human should be handed over to save them all. Others said killing him now was safer than letting the warriors take him. Fear poisoned the air like smoke. The human stepped forward. His voice broke as he said he had never asked for this. He had only wanted to live a quiet life. He looked at the glowing mark on his chest and said it felt like a curse. His words carried pain, and for a moment even the angriest voices grew quiet. But the peace did not last. The ground trembled as heavy steps approached, the walls shook, bottles rattled on shelves, and the neon lights flickered. Outside, shadows loomed. Rows of armored warriors marching closer. Their glowing eyes cut through the smoke of the streets. The alien girl's breath quickened. She grabbed his arm and whispered that they had to run. But the human shook his head, his voice steady though his hands trembled. He said running would only delay the fight, not stop it. He knew they were coming for him, and he could not escape forever. The elder agreed. He said the boy had to face what was chasing him, but he warned that he must control the power within the mark, or it would burn him alive. The human stared at the elder, his heart pounding. He asked how to control it, but the elder only shook his head, saying the answer was buried in the past. The doors of the bar exploded inward with a blast of fire and smoke. Shards of metal flew across the room. Aliens screamed and ducked for cover. Through the smoke marched a squad of warriors far larger than before. Their armor gleamed black, marked with red symbols of war. Their leader wore a helmet shaped like the skull of a beast, and his voice echoed like thunder. Hand over the human, he roared, or everyone dies tonight. The human clenched his fists. His knees shook, but his chest burned with strange heat. He felt the mark pulsing faster, like it was alive, like it wanted him to fight. He whispered to himself that he was no warrior, yet his body remembered movements he never learned. The alien girl stepped in front of him again. Her voice cracked but did not break. She shouted that they would have to kill her first. Her defiance shocked even the crowd. Some aliens who had mocked her earlier now looked at her with respect. The warriors laughed. Their leader raised his weapon and gave the order to strike. The squad surged forward like a wave of steel and fire. The human's heart pounded so loud it drowned the screams. The mark on his chest flared brighter than ever before, flooding the room with blinding light. The first warrior swung a blade, but before the human could think, his arm shot out. His hand glowed faintly as he blocked the strike. The blade shattered into sparks. The crowd gasped. The girl cried out his name, and the elder whispered that the legend was true. The human did not understand what was happening, but his body moved. On its own again, he ducked, struck, twisted, each movement sharp and deadly. He felt power rushing through his veins, but with it came pain. His chest burned. His vision blurred. Every strike he made drained him, yet he could not stop. The alien girl fought by his side, clumsy but brave. Her blade swung wildly, but every time she faltered, he pulled her back. Every time he staggered, she shouted for him to stand. Together they fought against the storm the crowd could only watch. Some cheered in fear and hope. Others cowered, praying to survive. The bar was no longer a place of music. It had become a battlefield. When the dust settled, bodies lay across the floor. The human collapsed to his knees, the mark still glowing but faint. His chest rose and fell like he had run for days. He looked at his trembling hands and whispered that he did not know who he was anymore. The alien girl knelt beside him. Her hand rested on his shoulder, her voice soft but firm. She said whoever he was not alone now. The elder stepped forward, his eyes grave. He said the mark had chosen its time, and the galaxy would soon know of it. He warned that this was only the beginning. The real threat had yet to arrive. Outside, distant sirens echoed, more ships landing, more shadows gathering. The night was far from over. The human's life as a simple waiter had ended. Now he was a target, a weapon, and perhaps the only hope for a galaxy on the edge of war. The smoke from the battle still hung in the air. The bar was half destroyed, tables broken, glass shattered across the floor. The neon lights flickered weakly, casting shadows that stretched long and thin. The human knelt in the middle of it all, his chest glowing faintly. His breath came heavy and sweat dripped down his face. The alien girl stayed beside him, her hand gripping his arm. Her silver hair clung to her damp skin. She whispered for him to stand, to keep moving before more soldiers arrived, but he could not. His body trembled like it had carried mountains. His mind swirled with confusion and fear. He whispered back that he was not supposed to be like this. He was just a human, just a waiter. The elder alien walked slowly toward him. His green scales reflected the dim light. His eyes studied the mark carefully. He said the boy could not deny the truth anymore. He was not ordinary. The mark did not appear by chance. It had been sealed inside him for a reason. The human shook his head weakly. His voice cracked. He said he had no memory of any of this. He had grown up far from war, far from alien clans. His childhood had been simple. He had worked hard, served drinks, washed floors, and lived quietly. Nothing about his life explained why this mark lived on his chest. The alien girl knelt lower, looking straight into his eyes. She told him she believed him, but belief would not protect him. She said the universe did not care if he asked for this or not. The mark had already chosen him, and now the enemies of the mark would come. As she spoke, the human felt something stir inside. The mark pulsed harder, sending warmth through his veins. He gasped and pressed his hand against it. A rush of images flashed in his mind. He saw battles on strange worlds. He saw warriors carrying the same glowing mark, their faces fierce, their weapons blazing. He saw cities burning, fleets of ships exploding, and then he saw himself, standing among them, leading them. His eyes glowed, his hands covered in fire. The vision snapped away, leaving him shaking, his knees buckled. The girl caught him before he hit the floor. Her eyes searched his face. She asked what he had seen. His lips trembled as he whispered that he had seen war, fire, and death, and somehow, he was part of it. The elder's face grew grim. He said the memories inside the mark were awakening. They were not only symbols, but keys to a history long erased. He explained that the guardians of the abyss, the ancient clan, were said to bind their power into marks that could live for centuries, passing from body to body until called upon. The human's hands shook. He whispered that he did not want to be a weapon. He did not want to carry death, but the elder told him he had no choice. The moment the girl tore his shirt, his fate had been sealed. The alien girl squeezed his shoulder, her voice firm but soft. She said he was not alone. She told him he had saved her, not once, but twice already, and no weapon could do that. Only a human heart could. Her words brought a faint flicker of strength back into his eyes. Suddenly, the sound of engines roared outside. The walls shook again. This time it was not soldiers on foot, It was warships landing, their lights cutting across the sky. The crowd in the bar panicked. Aliens ran to the corners. Others begged. To escape, the elder shouted for calm, but fear spread like fire. The human forced himself to stand, his body still weak but his eyes steadier now. He looked at the alien girl and the elder. He said, if the mark carried power, then he would use it. Not to destroy, but to protect. His voice shook, but it carried truth. The elder nodded slowly, but his expression stayed grave. He said power always demanded a price, and the boy would learn what that price was soon enough. The bar doors rattled under the pressure of new soldiers outside. The alien girl lifted her blade again, her body trembling but her stance firm. The human touched the glowing mark on his chest. It flared brighter, filling the room with white light. The crowd shielded their eyes, gasping. For the first time, the boy did not try to hide it. He stood tall, the light shining across his body. His voice was quiet but clear. He said maybe he did not know who he was, but he knew what he would do. He would not let anyone take his freedom, and he would not let anyone hurt those who stood with him. The alien girl's heart pounded as she looked at him. He was no longer just the quiet human waiter. He was something more, something the galaxy was not ready for, and outside the footsteps of the enemy grew louder, closing in. The next battle was about to begin, and this time, the truth of the mark would burn brighter than ever. The night outside. The bar was no longer quiet. The ground shook under the landing of heavy warships. Their engines roared like thunder, sending vibrations through the broken walls. Searchlights cut through the smoke, sweeping across the streets. The alien crowd inside the bar froze, fear in their eyes. The human stood at the center, the glow of his chest brighter than the neon signs that flickered weakly above. The alien girl gripped her blade tighter. Her silver hair clung to her damp face. She whispered that they could not stay. They had to run before the soldiers burned the place to ashes. The human nodded, though his eyes were torn between fear and determination. He knew she was right. The elder warned that the enemy outside would not stop. They would bring numbers, weapons, and firepower far beyond what the boy had faced so far. The human's voice shook but carried resolve. He said they needed to escape into the city, blend into the chaos, and find a way to disappear. The elder agreed, but added that the mark would always betray his presence. The glow could not be hidden. Forever. It was a beacon, calling hunters from every shadow of the galaxy. The doors rattled again as heavy fists slammed against them. The crowd screamed. Aliens pushed and shoved, desperate to find a way out. The human turned to the alien girl, his eyes steady now. He said he would fight if he had to, but he would not let her die for him. She glared back at him fiercely, her voice firm. She told him she was the one who had exposed his secret, and she would stand by him no matter what. Her words planted a strange warmth in his chest, a feeling deeper than fear. The elder moved quickly. He pushed aside a broken shelf and revealed a hidden passage behind the wall. It was narrow and dark. Meant for smugglers and thieves, the crowd rushed toward it, shoving each other. But the elder stopped the human and the girl. His hand rested on the boy's shoulder, his voice heavy. He told him to remember that power without control was a blade that cut both ways. He warned that the next time the mark awakened, it might destroy not only his enemies but also those closest to him. The human nodded silently, his heart heavy with the warning. He turned and pulled the girl with him. Together they slipped into the dark passage as the doors of the bar finally gave way behind them. The sound of metal crashing echoed, followed by the roar of soldiers storming inside. Screams filled the air. The smell of fire and smoke spread quickly. The passage twisted and turned, its walls damp and narrow. Rats and small alien creatures scurried away from the torchlight. The girl's breath was heavy, but she stayed close to him. Her shoulder brushed his arm as they ran. Her voice was low, but sharp. She told him he could not doubt himself anymore. If he gave in to fear, they would both die. Her words struck him. He looked at her, his chest glowing faintly in the dark. He whispered that he had never been brave, never been strong. He was only a human trying to survive. She smirked through her exhaustion. Her reply cut through the darkness. She said survival was the greatest strength, and maybe that was why the Mark chose him. They emerged from the tunnel into the back streets of the alien city. The night sky glowed red from the warships above. Sirens wailed. Soldiers marched in the distance, searching for them. The city was alive with fear. Aliens locked their doors. Shops closed. Shadows moved in every corner. The human pulled his torn shirt tighter, but the glow still leaked through. The girl reached for his hand, pulling him into the maze of alleys. Her grip was firm, refusing to let go. He felt the warmth of her skin, steadying him, for the first time since the mark was revealed. He did not feel alone. They ran past neon markets, broken stalls, and flickering lights. Soldiers' voices echoed nearby. The human pushed the girl into a narrow gap between two buildings, pressing against the wall as a patrol passed. His heart pounded in his ears. The glow from his chest dimmed just in time. The soldiers walked past without noticing. When it was quiet again, the girl looked at him, her voice soft. She asked him what he had seen when the mark first flared. His lips trembled. He told her about the visions, battles, fire, and warriors with the same mark. He confessed that in one vision, he saw himself leading them. His voice cracked as he said he feared it meant he was not truly human. The girl studied his face, her eyes sharp but gentle. She told him he was human enough to care, human enough to fight to protect strangers, and that was more important than blood or destiny. Her words struck deep, calming the storm in his chest. But the peace did not last. A sudden spotlight swept across the alley. Soldiers shouted. The human grabbed her hand and ran. Their footsteps echoed through the narrow streets. Shots fired. Sparks burst from the walls around them. The girl stumbled, and he pulled her up, refusing to let her fall. The chase dragged on, but something had changed between them. Every time danger closed in, they moved together. Every step, every breath, every choice bound them closer. The bond was no longer born from guilt or chance, but survival. Finally, they reached the edge of the city. The lights behind them glowed red, and the sound of soldiers filled the streets. Ahead lay only the dark wilderness, mountains and shadows stretching into the unknown. The human looked back once, then turned to the girl, his voice steady for the first time. He said they could not go back. Their only chance was forward, together. She squeezed his hand, her silver eyes glimmering in the dark. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried strength. She said together was enough, and with that they vanished into the night, the glow of the mark their only light, while the city behind them burned with chaos and the enemy hunted their every step. The Tower wilderness stretched far beyond the city. Dark mountains rose like jagged teeth under the red glow of the warships in the sky. The human and the alien girl ran until their legs ached. Their breath came heavy, their bodies shaking with exhaustion. When they finally stopped, the city lights were nothing but a faint glow behind them. The night was quiet here, but it was not safe. Strange creatures watched from the shadows, their glowing eyes following every movement. The human pressed his back against a rock, his chest still glowing faintly. He whispered that the enemy would not stop. They would chase him across the stars. The alien girl sat beside him, her silver hair tangled, her face smeared with dust. She whispered back that she would keep running as long as he did. Her voice was steady, and it carried strength even in the silence. The mark on his chest pulsed harder. The warmth spread through his body, bringing visions again. This time they were clearer. He saw a circle of warriors standing around a great fire, each carrying the same glowing symbol. He heard their voices, calling him not by name but by the mark itself. They told him he was chosen not because of his blood, but because of his will. The vision burned bright, then faded, leaving him shaking. He clutched his chest, gasping. The girl placed her hand over his, asking what he saw. His voice trembled. He said the mark was not just a curse. It was a call to fight, to lead, to protect. He admitted he was afraid. But he also said he finally understood. He was not carrying the past of the clan, he was carrying its future. Before he could say more, a loud hum filled the air. The girl looked up, her eyes widening. A massive ship broke through the clouds. larger than the warships from the city. Its surface was black and shining, marked with ancient symbols that matched the glow on his chest. The ground shook as it descended. Dust swirled in storms. The boy shielded his eyes, his heart pounding. The ship landed before them, its ramp lowering with a hiss. From within stepped figures tall and cloaked. Their eyes glowed faintly under their hoods. The girl gasped, her voice breaking. She whispered that these were the true guardians, the ones thought to be long dead. The cloaked leader walked toward the human, his voice deep and echoing. He said the boy carried the last surviving mark, the key to their return. He told him that by surviving the night, he had awakened their order. The human shook his head, his voice raw. He said he was no warrior, no leader, he was only human. But the leader replied that humanity was exactly why the mark chose him. Because strength was not in power alone, but in choice. The alien girl stood firm at his side, her voice sharp. She told the leader that if they wanted him, they would have to accept her too. She said she had stood with him when he was weak and she would not leave him now. The leader studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. He said the mark had not only chosen a bearer, it had chosen a bond. The human felt the weight of those words. His chest burned brighter. The mark's light spread across his arms, wrapping him in a faint glow. He felt fear, but also strength. For the first time, he did not want to run. He looked at the girl and whispered that maybe this was not the end of his life, but the beginning. Behind them, the sky lit up again with fire. Enemy warships had tracked them. Their engines roared as they descended. The ground quaked. Soldiers poured from the ships, weapons raised. The guardians drew their blades, their glowing eyes fixed on the enemy. The leader turned to the human, his voice commanding. He said the time for hiding was over. The time for standing had come. The human's breath shook. His knees almost buckled. But the alien girl squeezed his hand. Her voice was steady. She whispered that he was not alone. He looked into her eyes and nodded. His fear melted into resolve. He stepped forward, the glow from his chest blazing like a beacon. The soldiers hesitated as the light grew stronger, spreading across the battlefield. The guardians raised their voices, chanting ancient words. The mark answered, glowing brighter. The human lifted his hand, and for the first time, he felt control. The energy pulsed through him, not wild, not painful, but steady. A weapon, a shield, and a promise. He struck forward. Light bursting from his palm, scattering the enemy in a wave of fire and force. The alien girl stood at his side, fighting fiercely. Her eyes shone with defiance. Every strike she made, he covered her. Every strike he made, she guarded his back. Together they moved like one, bound by survival, bound by choice. When the dust cleared, the battlefield was silent. The enemy ships smoldered in the distance. The guardians stood tall, their cloaks whipping in the wind. The leader looked at the boy with a rare smile. He said the new era of the guardians had begun, led not by the past, but by a human with the will to fight. The human lowered his head, breathing heavy, his chest still glowing faintly. He whispered that he was still afraid, but then he looked at the alien girl, her silver eyes meeting his. Her voice was soft. She told him that fear was only proof he was still human. And in that moment, under the burning sky, the human realized his story was no longer about survival. It was about becoming something more, something greater, not just for himself, but for the galaxy that now waited for him.